Welcome to Blood in the Snow Radio, where we give you the latest news and interviews with the best in Canadian genre cinema. Here are your hosts, Robert Bellamy and Festival Director Kelly Michael Stewart.
Blood in the Snow 2023 continues, and these guys are always a blast to have here. I'll get you guys to introduce yourselves in your project.
I'm Liv Collins.
And cut her off.
Go ahead.
I'm Jesse Cook, and I'm the director of our new film, The Hyperborean, which is a science fiction horror comedy film. We're still trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
No, we're delighted to be back at BITS. I think it's at least our fourth or fifth time here.
Yeah, I was going to say, the past titles have been amazing. Cult Hero, The Horde, Dead Sight was really good. Because I remember reading the log line for that. It's like a blind guy fighting zombies. It's like, that's going to be short.
Yeah, this should be a short film.
But yeah, and it's fun to watch your films too, because it's almost like the Adam Sandler in Canada, because you have your film family.
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
The same people, and it's always fresh, which is very cool very interesting when you're using the same actors.
Yeah, like it's a blast to come up with stories with our friends in mind, like Rye, who's just such a legend, and to think of like the different
That's
people
former
he can
BITS
bring to
Vanguard
life.
winner, Rye Barrett.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it feels very Adam Sandler-esque, I guess, kind of in that same world of...
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, about how we never really replicate ourselves, although we do cultivate the same acting troupe, a lot of the same crew. We like to retain our friends and all the people we love working with, but we never really, repeat the same kind of formula in a film. And we were talking yesterday, like, I wonder what that would be like to do that, like to make a film and be like, oh, let's like try making another film like that, but really, really better for a bigger budget. But we tend to do like complete 180s.
Yes. That's what I was going to say, because the head of the family in this film is in the Horde. He's one of the...
He's a psychologist,
yeah,
Dr. Ebe, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's going to talk you why you like to gather stuff. And he was so good in that. But it's so different in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very different role for Tony. Last year, obviously, at BITS, we had Cult Hero, and he played a deranged cult leader. And this time, very much like a patriarch, like from Succession type of
Father
thing.
figure.
Yeah.
So when the writing comes around, and like you said, you're now writing with your friends in mind, do you try and write the most interesting, and I use that term loosely, character for Rye? Because his characters seem to bump up on the edge of, oh my Lord.
I think you invented his character in this one.
Like many moons ago, I worked at Lone Star Texas Grill and had to wear a cowboy hat, cowboy boots, and have a fake name and all that stuff. And just as we were coming up with the characters, I was thinking like it would be funny if he kind of ran something similar to like a country western bar, but he just, inhabited that entire wardrobe. And like, that's kind of his identity, as like a kind of like an FU to his dad somehow, like, or his family. Like he has a weird accent that no one else in the family has.
I noticed that too, yes. 3 of the last 4 films Rye's been in of ours, he's played a kind of like man-child, so to speak, right?
Yeah, and it's so fun. And he does it so well, right? Like he's so much fun to work with.
You look back to the Horde where he is part of that psychic team, and then
that's right.
Cult Hero where he is like the lead.
Yeah.
But he's still, like you said, he's that, man baby almost.
Yeah. I think
and lovable, like so lovable, because I don't know if it's because I know him personally, but it's like, he could. Anyways, yeah.
Back to your question, Rob. Like I feel like we did have all of our cast in mind, other than Ian,
yes,
who Michael Masurkovich played. We cast that role, but we had worked with Michael before.
Hero.
But everyone else, like Jonathan Craig as Aldous, Ryan Jess, Tony, obviously Liv, was written with them in mind. Like we knew who was going to play that role while we were writing it.
Even my brother Greg, who plays the Hyperborean, like we were like, we're gonna stuff him in a barrel.
That's right. He's like our Doug Jones.
Yeah, like
he's lanky, he's patient, he can sit for 6 hours.
We explained to him, like, it's going to be hellish getting this makeup on. He's like, yeah. And he's just cool with it. Like, and he did a phenomenal job. He knocked it out of the park.
He did. There was another actor had like a small prosthetic, and I think the like blood was getting in under their eye. They got very impatient, like, get me out of this thing. And then there was Greg. It's like 6 hours getting this alien makeup on,
and then
another
like
4 hours getting it off, and he just didn't say anything. It's like natural.
Oh wow! So where did the idea for a laser shooting zombie come from?
I had an idea. If you were to go back and watch my very first film, which is either the worst film ever made or the best, we're still not sure, but it's like a real grindhouse film, and I act in it, and my character in that movie is called Scarce. It was like 2007. My character talks about a story of people drinking whiskey out of an old barrel they found, and realizing that there was like a pickled corpse inside, and they'd be drinking this kind of zombie juice. So if you were to watch my first movie, it's like a Cook metaverse, like a universe movie. It's like all ties in with our first movie. But I don't know, when we were driving in Ireland, you tell the story better than me, but that was the essence of the basic.
Well, it was time for us to make a movie, and then we found out that we were pregnant with our daughter, and it was really time to make a movie before she came on the scene. And we were driving across Ireland, and we were talking about this body in a barrel idea that Jess has brought up many times from Scares. And we're like, okay, like, let's explore that. What is that? What's in there? Okay, it's like and then we started talking about aliens. Our son's super into ET, so we were like talking about like,
why would a body be in a barrel?
Why would a body be in a barrel?
Sense if it was like 19th century.
And like it started doing weird stuff, so they stuffed it in a barrel, not to deal with it anymore. We're driving on the wrong side of the road. With all our snacks, driving across Ireland, just bouncing ideas, and like we don't even know if it's making sense or if it's sticking or what, but we're both just jazzed. Like,
and we have 4 kids,
cool.
So to be able to just like go for a 2-hour drive on our own is like the whole movie was incubated on that 2-hour drive.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that's rare.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We
and it did have all these. It felt very much like a film challenge. Like,
yeah,
Liv was pregnant. We had to film a movie before she had the baby, and we had all these people we love working with, and we wanted to shoot it within the next 3 months. Like, it was a really quick development. So we were just kind of, that's why you get this kind of strange hybrid sci-fi comedy. It's like a sketch comedy, a little bit horror. Yeah, it was
film
like a really
challenge-esque.
interesting process for us, because the development was so fast that we were frankly writing while on set, and just felt like laying the tracks just ahead of the train at all times. And it was wild, but it felt for us like the most purest form of filmmaking.
Really?
So fun.
Yeah, because it wasn't watered down. It was just like raw. That's what you get on the screen. That was like us under pressure, having to make a movie with very little money in a very constrained time with just the resources we had.
That didn't add more pressure to it? Like I said, as you're writing as you go as well?
Yeah, for sure. And like, we just had so many factors. Like, I was pregnant, and right before we started shooting was in the hospital with feeling super sick. I couldn't stand up for long periods of time. So it's like, and I'm like too stubborn. I'm like, I'm still doing the movie. Like, I can't not do it. So then we just write my character is sickly, and then that's right. Changes the story again. Like, so okay, why is she sick? And how, like, blah, blah, blah. And just adapting.
Like, we got to set on day one, the night before day one, and it was like, we're ready to go. And then me and Liv and our producer Sam started talking late that night before the shoot about the character Ian, played by Michael Masurkovich, and he was already in the hotel ready to shoot, and he had his lines already. And we started to think, what if this guy's a villain? And we just went down that rabbit hole, and like we stayed up for like 4 or 5 hours being like, yes, this is like works much better.
Changed it all.
And then like while we're unloading our equipment in the morning, we called Michael up and said, we've got news for you.
Everything you've learned,
you've practiced, learned, what you agreed to, everything, forget it. And he had to act in the first scene.
And he did phenomenal with that process.
We thought that would just be like a subtle change, but inevitably, every scene we got to in our schedule, like, turned to, okay, day 2, scene 72. We're like, oh shit, because we've made this little change on day one, it had cascaded.
Domino
and so
effect.
that's why
Yeah.
it wasn't reckless in the sense we were writing the actual script as we were going, but we were changing the existing script to conform to,
The changes we
in
were making
character.
on the day. And it was, yeah.
Oh, wow. See, this is the stories I love because now you look at that movie in a whole new light.
Yeah.
Well, now, and again, this is what you're here for the panel for, directing it together. Did that add in any challenges? Because usually if you're doing things together like this, you would get a head degree and you'd just go and work. When you're changing things every day, how does that affect how you two look at the project?
Well, we're so used to it just in our life because we basically run our house. Like with 4 kids, it's kind of chaotic. We have to make changes on the fly constantly. It's almost like a film
I'm like
shoot
an
in
AD.
itself. And then creative direction and all that stuff. So then when it comes to the film, like we have a lot of trust between us. Like, if I
Totally.
go off with the actors and he goes off with the tech team, it's like we just trust that each other's gonna.
Yeah, it was kind of the thing where Tony, me and Liv came up with the idea and wrote half the script. We turned it over to Tony, and then he put his spin on it and punched up the dialogue. And so when we were on set, really the discussions were kind of between me and Liv and Sam and Tony from like a story level. And then they would branch off accordingly where I wouldn't really necessarily worry too much about the acting. Liv could go deal with the actors, and I would just make sure I'm dealing with Tony and like distilling all that to our cinematographer and the tech team. So there's kind of a trust built in that I know Liv's off in the trailer practicing lines and kind of feeding all the new intel to the actors.
Yeah, we're not gonna go rogue on each other and be like, okay.
Yeah, and I mean we're with each other 24 hours a day, so like we've done all the pre-work.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
one other question then too, because once you get on set, everyone looks to the director. Like, okay, if something's coming down the pipe, it's coming from the director. When you have 2, how do you let the people know this is who to listen to and you're good?
Well, I think it's always Jess,
Yeah,
and
'cause
then
Liv didn't direct this.
No,
Just me.
but
Oh, it was so. I thought it was
no.
No,
It's just Jess.
We
but
wrote it together.
We wrote it together.
and we
Okay.
produced together. And I guess you could.
Well, no,
divvy
like
up
I
the
think that
directing, but
that it is you, but like I think
If
with
it comes
working,
down to a final word, Rob, it goes to me.
but
It never feels that way, though.
I think that if with working with the actors, like I think that's kind of if there was a definitive line, it might be like if there's, I don't know.
Yeah, if there was like a question from someone, we would usually collaboratively. I would love input from everyone. There are very rare times where I'd have to sort of overrule and say, no, I want it this way. It's
Yeah,
just
that
the
doesn't
team
happen
doesn't
very
really
often.
work like that. It just feels like,
Very collaborative.
yeah. I'm not
I
like
think
an
that-
auteur who's like crazy and like
It's not my vision.
yeah, I know.
No.
In fact, oftentimes I just like suggest an idea and I'm like, what do you think about that? Liv? Or
Yeah, and
does that work, Tony?
And I think if actors have questions, they can ask me, and I know what you're gonna say. Like I kind of know what you
Yeah.
want, and if I don't, I can always be like, "What do you think?" But I don't feel like
Yeah, there's pros and cons to that process because it does allow for like a lot of suggestions. And sometimes you'd have somebody come up and say, "What if my character did this?" And I'll just kind of stare blankly and nod and be like, "Yeah, you were not going to do that."
Interesting thought.
Yeah.
yeah.
It must be like that though, just because you continue to work with the same actors, because you must have that sense of trust, and you can know what to expect. They know what to expect from you. Now, does that ever kind of blow up in your face sometimes? This is a good sign.
Yes.
You have to
Yes, it does. But I wouldn't say blow up, but it has allowed. There's been occasions where, actor or actors, I've said, you know what, I'm too busy to worry about this one little scene. Can you guys work on the dialogue? If you want to make any changes, that's okay. And
We've had that with Ryan Chess
Yeah, you
before.
give them a little bit of free, and then you forget about it. And until you're shooting that scene 6 days later, and you're flipped to your binder hastily, and you have an hour left to film. Oh yeah, this scene. what'd you guys come up with for this? And they came up with like a lovely scene, and but we didn't put it in the movie.
But it was a lovely scene. But then ultimately, when it came down to it, we realized we don't need this scene anymore.
We just didn't need the scene. Yeah, but it was a great scene. So there's times where, we're leaning on the actors. What would this character do? Especially on this film, where it was just the changes were a mile a minute.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And that's where it's handy when they know their character.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, with Rye, like, how I got to know, how did you set him up for that character? Because he is so different from everybody else in the family.
I know. He did a great job bringing him to life. We just kind of said, I remember we pitched to them.
We pitched it to them. We thought your character is going to be the most bombastic, the most that kind of lives outside of this world. Like
he's trying to strike out on his own.
He's a hothead,
kind of
and the only one who's kind of putting it on. Like everyone else is almost playing themselves to some degree, a version of themselves. Rye was actually like, he's not like Rex in real life at all.
No, he's not.
He's fully acting. Yeah.
Yeah, he did great.
So now, what are the plans after this?
Well, I've been told last week I can announce it as of today. The film's been picked up by Black Fawn here in Canada. So there will be some kind of SVOD release, and they will be doing a physical, which gets us very excited. So either a Blu-ray with all their amazing kind of retro packaging. So that's happening here in Canada. Movies being shopped in the States and elsewhere, and it's still doing its festival run. We have this screening, and it's screening in London tonight, so it has its international premiere tonight. But we chose to be here at Bits because we love you guys. And,
Thank you.
We just played it in Newfoundland. It's playing in Buenos Aires, San Francisco, and a few other places. So sometime next year, it'll be released, and we'll get to chat again about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any ideas for future films?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually stepping back and producing the next film. So Sam, who produced the Hyperborean and worked with us on Cult Hero, he's directing a film that we're backing, and it's called Turn It Up. It's like a heavy metal rock and roll themed horror film. He calls it Scott Pilgrim Meets Phantasm. And it sounds sensational. So we're going to, I wouldn't say chill, because we're working on a script. We have
something in the works as well, but we're just...
for our next vehicle. But it's certainly in the spring. We're just going to be producing a film.
Yeah, I don't think the engines ever stop.
No, they never do. They never do. Even our little, 2-day trip in Newfoundland, it's just like the wheels are turning like crazy.
Well, and again, this is part of a film family. I imagine you have all the other people going, so what's next?
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what's up next?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. And congratulations, because, this film is a blast.
Thank you.
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
Join us next time for Blood in the Snow Radio. Bits Radio is a production of Three Evil Cats Productions in association with the Blood in the Snow Canadian Film Festival. For more information and to listen to other episodes, visit bloodinthesnow.ca and tweet us at BitsFilmFest. Music by Jan Gorman, produced and edited by Kelly Michael Stewart. I am Eduardo Correa Lima.